Right now at noon, returning home, the United States and Russia have agreed to a prisoner swap, securing the release of 3 American citizens imprisoned in Russia.
And we have another alert day today for dangerous heat continuing. Heat index values for some of us up to 115 degrees. We'll have a look at that forecast coming up.
Plus, visitors by the thousands look for ways to stay cool at this year's Marion Days event.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
We have breaking news for you today as the U.S. and Russia agreed to a major prisoner swap. This is KOAM News at noon. I'm Elise Noe. Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Guskovich and Marine veteran Paul Whelan are among those released in a prisoner swap between the U.S., Russia, and several other nations. Natalie Brand reports from the White House.
Less than 2 weeks after a Russian court found Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Guskovich guilty of espionage in what the U.S. called a sham trial, comes word that he is free. Guskovich, along with Marine veteran Paul Whelan, are part of a prisoner swap the Biden administration agreed to with Russia. The Kremlin took Guskovich into custody while he was on assignment in March 2023. Paul Whelan was arrested in 2018 when he was in Moscow to attend a friend's wedding. He was convicted of spying. Both men and the U.S. denied the charges. Whelan was the longest detained American held in Russia. He was left out of previous prisoner swaps, including the one involving WNBA star Brittany Griner. Securing his release and others has been a priority for the Biden administration.
The release of those who are unjustly detained, I think, is a big win for the Biden administration, for the American people, and for the rule of law.
While the release is cause for celebration, experts on Russia caution the swap could also come at a cost.
I think that Russia, in the sense, wanted to make a deal. This will be a propaganda coup for them because they have gotten some of their prisoners in the West to the Russian Federation.
Some foreign policy experts say deals like these give Russian President Vladimir Putin incentive to take more Americans as bargaining chips. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Washington.
Now let's check in with Chris Warner for a look at the forecast.
Yeah, we've still got an alert day in place today for dangerous heat across the area. We still have excessive heat warnings for portions of southeast Kansas. So that's heat index values up to 115 degrees. And then we have heat advisories across the rest of the area. Still not much difference, though. We're talking heat index values 105 to 110 degrees. The only good news here is all of these are set to expire later this evening across the area because we have a cold front coming in. That cold front's not going to drop our temperatures necessarily, but it's going to help dry the air out and lessen that heat index value out there. We had a few scattered showers and storms early this morning across the area after a couple of lines of storms rolled through this morning as well. Those beginning to exit the region this morning. We're going to dry out, still be hot and muggy, but then we have a cold front just to our north. Again, it's going to start to bring some good changes, at least for a couple of days. Yesterday started at 80, made it up to 97, so well above where we should be, but thankfully not quite to record levels, but of course with those heat index values it feels like record levels anyway. Temperatures in the next few days, they were still going to be above normal even into the weekend, but there's some good news for Friday and Saturday with what that cold front's going to help us out with, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Through the rest of the evening we'll have mostly clear to partly cloudy skies, and then late this evening that cold front starts to push in, and we could see some thunderstorms along and south of I-44. Some of those could be on the strong side as well. We're going to take a full look at your forecast, talk about those rain chances and how that cold front helps us here in just a few minutes.
All right, thanks, Chris. Those high temperatures can overwork air conditioning units and cause them to fail. This can leave households in an uncomfortable situation. An HVAC professional in Pittsburgh recommends keeping the filters clean and changing them when needed.
Make it long lasting, your condenser, it's taking a water hose and spraying it over that compressor and over the coil to cool it off and also keep the coil clean. That way you can get the right temperature reading, and also that way it doesn't draw so much electricity.
HVAC professionals also remind the public to keep up with AC maintenance because if damage becomes severe, repair costs can go up. Well, Marion Days in Carthage begins today, and thousands have already made their way to the Maple Leaf City, with some setting up tents and camping out. However, high temps this week could make staying cool and safe difficult. Many attendees have found shaded areas to stay out of the sun, and many people are either wearing hats or using umbrellas to fend off the harmful rays. For those who've traveled from around the country for this Vietnamese Catholic festival, the experience is worth having to fend off the heat.
Well, me and my friend John over there, we were just going through the auditoriums, like it's just blasting AC in there. And plus, like compared to Colorado is like hot, but it's not like humid. So like it's like a whole big shift, you know. Yeah. Like after your showers, you're always feeling like really, how do I say it? Like just sticky in general, you know. It's horrible. But at the end of the day, it's still worth it to me, I guess.
Marion Days officially begins today and will run through Sunday. The Crawford County Fair kicked off yesterday in Girard, Kansas. The fair promises something for the whole family and visitors of all ages, including nightly live music, a rodeo and mutton busting, animal judging, barnyard Olympics, and a lot more. The fair also provides plenty of displays, including one on canning and food preservation.
Canning has changed a little bit over the years. From the types of equipment, we have more modern equipment that you can use between pressure cookers, but still some of the old ways of canning with the water baths with specific things can be used. So it really depends on the person and the direction you want to use to do food preservation.
The Crawford County Fair runs through Saturday. Well, some kids in Pittsburgh have a big idea for staying cool and helping others. Nana's House played host to a grandkid-operated lemonade stand yesterday, and they raked in the bucks. What made the event even sweeter was the kids' decision to donate the money raised to St. Jude's Children's Hospital and some local fundraisers for kids in need.
It sounded fun, and I did it at daycare once, and I thought it was really fun. I just like helping people, and I feel like it makes me a kind person.
According to Nana, also known as Karen Thomas, the kids raised $156 for St. Jude, and they'd gladly take more donations. Well, coming up, a terrifying moment turns into triumph for a Mound Ridge, Kansas family. And later, we're making chicken spare ribs in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen. The wait is finally over for a Missouri man wrongfully held behind bars for 34 years. Christopher Dunn walked out of prison Tuesday. A judge overturned Dunn's murder conviction early last month and ordered his immediate release. But the state attorney general appealed to try and keep Dunn behind bars. Dunn's release came after the state Supreme Court ruled the Department of Corrections did not have the right to keep Dunn jailed because he no longer had a conviction on his record. Well, terrifying moments for a Kansas family after a 14-month-old boy fell into a 12-foot deep pipe in their front yard. It happened Sunday afternoon in the town of Mound Ridge. Gabriela Hernandez spoke with the family and the rescuers who worked quickly to save the child.
The way that Eli called out for his little brother, he acted like he was never going to see him again.
The family of 14-month-old Bentley recounting the horrifying moment their son fell into a 12-foot deep hole in their yard.
I can't imagine what she thought whenever she saw him fall, because for all she knew, it was a sewer line, it was full of water, or it was 50 feet deep. I mean, she had no idea.
No idea what the hole might be for, but
by the grace of God, that boy was carried down that hole by an angel. So
this body camera video showing the incredible moment crews worked together using a makeshift catch pole to save toddler Bentley and get him back into the arms of his family. Mound Ridge PD officer Ronnie Wagner sharing how he came up with the idea.
We use them for catching dogs and stuff like that, and I made one out of similar materials in the past to catch a raccoon in someone's closet. So that's where I got the idea from it.
And although Wagner came up with the idea,
our first attempt was just with a rope itself, and the problem is that a 14-month-old child does not handle commands very well. The child fought us, and we tried to take the rope, away from his body and wouldn't allow it to get to where it needed to be. And so that's why the PVC was a great addition.
It was a team effort.
Yeah, he was actually in the hole for 23 minutes. It seemed like a blur. Everything happened so fast. It's haunting to feel so helpless knowing that your child is in serious need of help, and looking down at him as he was screaming, I think he knew that people were there to help him. And once he got out, I can't express that he hasn't been in this good of a mood in a long time.
Still to come on KOAM News at noon, Mr. Food.
When it comes to planning dinner, there are 3 things most of us look for. Any ideas to what they are?
And we've got a cold front coming in the area, so dangerous heat for now and then changes on the way. We'll look at that forecast when we come back. We had a few scattered showers and storms later this late morning hours, and we had a couple of lines of storms that rolled through in the overnight, but that all beginning to work its way out of the region this morning. We're going to be dry, we're going to be muggy, and we're going to be hot out there. But as we were talking about earlier, we have a cold front coming in. That cold front is going to help us in some ways and not necessarily in others. Ahead of that, though, still an alert day today for the dangerous heat. And as we head later into the evening, that cold front starts to push through. And by 10, winds are starting to shift out of the north. And then after midnight, we're expecting showers and storms to fire up pretty quickly right along that boundary. So mainly along and south of I-44 and around the Kansas-Oklahoma state line. Some model data suggests those storms might develop a little earlier than that, so a little further north. And some of them could be strong, low-grade severe with some hail and damaging wind gusts as the primary concern. But they're going to exit our region very quickly, with the main severe threat staying well to our south. So the cold front's not going to significantly drop our temperature. So you may be going, well, how in the world is it going to help us? It's going to do 2 things. 1, it's going to keep us with gusty north winds as we head into our Friday. And 2, it's going to dry the air out a little bit. So we're going to be dealing with less humidity and lower dew point levels for at least a couple of days across the area. So even though we're still hot and we're still technically above normal as we head into Friday, we'll have that gusty north wind and we're going to have drier air. So it's going to feel a little better out there. You still want to be cautious with temperatures in the 90s, but it's going to be a lot more bearable for us. And that should last into our Saturday as well. We'll get the more northeasterly breeze out there, and we're still going to be a little above average, but the air will remain dry into our Saturday before we start to turn around and heat back up as we go into Sunday. Now for today, again, we still have excessive heat warnings in southeast Kansas and heat advisories out there. Remember, in the warnings, we're talking heat index values up to 115. And in the heat advisories, we're talking heat index values of 105 to 110 degrees. So still dangerous heat out there. So, of course, with some of those extreme heat safety tips, one of the number 1 things, make sure you're taking your pets on early morning walks. Keep them indoors otherwise. And with heat index values as high as they've been lately, keep your kids inside as much as you can and make sure they're staying hydrated as well. Water, Pedialyte Pop's a great way to do that. For those of you who have to be outside, make sure you're finding shade, staying hydrated yourself, taking frequent breaks out there, and of course check in on the elderly. Just make sure they're doing okay, and with all this heat lately, make sure their air conditioning is still working fine. Make sure it's not getting too overloaded or that it's at a point where maybe it's not keeping them as cool as it needs to, because we're still at that point in those heat index value ranges of heat exhaustion being likely and heat stroke possible. And again, we have a great graphic on our website. It gives you the warning signs and symptoms of each of these. You can find it at KOAMnewsnow.com. As for the rest of today, still hot upper 90s, maybe a couple of triple digits. So we're going to see a little fewer triple digit readings out there. Those winds will still be gusty, and again, some of us heat index values up to 115. Cold front late tonight, and then we'll have that opportunity for a few isolated showers or storms out there. We're going to be a little cooler. Upper 60s, low 70s, a little closer to normal. The north breeze at 5 to 10. Heading into our Friday, that north breeze starts to gust upwards of 20, still above average, low to mid 90s, but again, it's going to be less humid. It's going to be a little drier in that air, so it's going to feel a little better out there. It's still going to be hot. Don't get me wrong, but it's going to feel a little better. Kind of like it did 2 or 3 weeks ago. We had temperatures upper 80s, low 90s, but the air was dry. It was hot but bearable. Unfortunately, though, once we get past Saturday, that is going to come to an end. Take a look at what happens as we head into the next work week. We are talking temperatures back into the lower 100s. Our next best shot of relief comes toward the end of next week with a few additional scattered storm chances. Elise?
All right, stick around. We're making chicken spare ribs in the Mr. Food Test kitchen. We'll be right back. Howard is showing us how to make chicken spare ribs in the Mr. Food Test kitchen.
When it comes to planning dinner, there are 3 things most of us look for. Something that doesn't take too long to make, something that's going to taste amazing, and last but not least, something that's not going to break the bank. So today, we're making a dish that tastes like pricey spare ribs, but actually starts with boneless chicken thighs, which are very budget friendly. We start by browning some boneless, skinless chicken thighs in a skillet with a bit of oil. The key here is to make sure the skillet is hot so the chicken gets nice and browned. While they're doing their thing, we make an Asian barbecue sauce by mixing together some water, soy sauce, ketchup, and cider vinegar. Now, to give it even more flavor, we mix in some brown sugar, chopped garlic, and ground ginger. We give this a stir and pour it over our brown chicken. We let them simmer, turning them every once in a while so they soak up all that flavor-packed sauce. We'll thicken this up by adding a combo of cornstarch and water. Then these guys are ready to serve. Maybe serve this over some rice so you don't leave behind any of that sticky flavor-packed sauce. To get the recipe for what we call chicken spare ribs, all you need to do is visit our website. Believe me, I know you'll be glad you did. I'm Howard in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen, where today we found a no bones about it way for you to say, ooh, it's so good.
You can, of course, find this recipe along with a lot more good food online from the Mr. Food Test Kitchen. Just go to our website at KOAMNewsNow.com. Now, here's a look at the 4-state market prices.
All right, so we still have the alert day today for those heat index values anywhere from 105 to 115. Highs upper 90s. Cold front tonight brings us some scattered storms. A couple of strong storms possible south of I-44. It will still be hot tomorrow and Saturday, but the air will be drier. Dangerous heat returns by the end of the weekend and next week back to the lower 100s. Maybe some additional storms by the end of next week.
Time of year, we're going to see it for a while, I'm afraid.
Alrighty. And Dal, what are you up for us tonight?
A lot's coming up at 5. For starters, a new study suggests certain types of cancer are becoming more common in younger adults. We're going to take a look at why those certain cancers appear to be most common in Generation X and millennials when compared to older generations. Plus, protecting vulnerable populations. How this extreme heat can impact the physical health of the elderly and young children. And a church in Carthage is helping feed people in need ahead of a new school year. Hope you'll join us for those stories. A lot more, of course. It's all coming up on KOAM News at 5.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dal. And that's the news for now. Thank you for joining us on KOAM News at noon. We'll see you right back here at 5. Until then, have a great rest of your day.